In one of the longest State of the Union addresses in the presidential history, at 1 hour and 40 minutes long, Donald Trump gave a expected speech. He, wasn't really something we kind of expected this to happen, but he talked about the economy. First off, he talked about how it's the best it's ever been, and inflation has gone down, which from research, if you've noticed, it's still 2.9% higher inflation and costs of everything. So it's not really plummeted like he claimed. He was talking about how America is back, it's bigger, it's better than ever, it's richer and it's stronger, which I guess makes sense, but it's not exactly true. It's back, but it's not better. More countries around the world do not trust the United States since Trump took his second office, which, by the way, his polls show that Trump's popularity among Americans is the lowest it's ever been. I think it's in its high 30s, but it's not looking good. By the time November comes around, who knows where Trump's going to be sitting. He talked about affordability. Obviously, prices in this country are still too damn high. It's hard to afford things like rent, households, gas, food, groceries. It's still tough and difficult right now. But he still thinks he's speaking with delusions again. He mentioned Iran and how he threatened that he seeks peace and he's letting diplomacy work, but yet he still continues a massive military force over there. Like, his whole peace through strength model is not a good one. It's bad. It doesn't work. Most of the time, it leads to more conflict than actual peace. If you noticed, every time he uses his peace through strength model, he's using the military against like smaller, weaker, underdeveloped countries, and so it's ballooned his head, his ego, greatly. And I believe he thinks that the way they took care of Venezuela is going to be the same way they're going to take care of Iran, which is not true, considering the fact that Iran is a lot bigger than Venezuela and a lot more organized. Iran has 90 million people, has like layers of government, chain of command. So it's not as simple as just going in, taking the supreme leader, and going out. And Iran actually has a military that can do damage to the U.S. And then at one point during this speech, so the Democratic Senator Al Green got escorted out because he was protesting. He held up a sign that said "Black people are not apes," in reference to a racist video that Donald Trump liked and shared on his Truth Social platform that showed Obama and Michelle Obama as apes. White House never really made much about it, except I think they said at one point it was just a harmless joke. But considering Trump's racist history, I don't think there was any jokes about that at all. Another key thing to note is how many Democrats boycotted the State of the Union for other events. If you notice, most Democrats that were there ended up like storming out or leaving halfway through, leaving a lot of empty seats. Democrats were protesting against his pro-ICE and pro-immigration forces, because Democrats, as we know, do not appreciate how he's used the federal agencies to enforce immigration. That's a big problem that they're trying to figure out right now. Last I checked, the DHS is still under a partial shutdown due to ICE extremism from Minnesota, which he did mention as well in his State of the Union address. he made some like really sketchy remarks about how like thugs and like Somalian thugs took over Minnesota and would making it worse and causing civil unrest, which was a pretty sketchy and racist comment that Trump made, and it's kind of common for him to make such statements as, you know, he's not a very ethnical loving guy. But he touched on that. He mentioned how ICE was there to take back Minnesota from like Somalians. He's been obsessed with Somalia for like a long time. I don't know why. He calls them pirates, and he's just blatantly disrespectful and racist towards Somalia. Even the what was it, Ishab Rasheen, or the Somalian Muslim senator that's a Democrat. I forget her name. It's like Ishab Rahab or something. My bad if I mess it up. No disrespect to her at all. But he and her have a sketchy history of back and forth of him just making racist remarks against her, and she defending, calling him a white supremacist and a racist POS. But then he also touched on like the Supreme Court tariffs and stuff. He called it disappointing and disappointing and disgraceful. He also mentioned how, he also mentioned how he has new plans that don't require Congress or approval for the tariffs for the 10 to 15% rate, and how he's got those going effective immediately for some reason. Even though the Supreme Court ruled tariffs that he's using are illegal, he still insists on using them, which just continues to show how much of a felon he acts like, because he does not hold any respect for the court of law, federal or local. Like, when you got Supreme Court justices telling you, you know, you can't do this, that doesn't mean you can keep doing it. And he is, which is ironic, because at the beginning of the speech, he met with the Supreme Court justices and he complimented them and shook their hands. And then he also had a moment where he had a message to like Charlie Kirk, well, not really a message, right? Just like a remembrance to Charlie Kirk. So that was at the beginning of the speech. But I didn't watch the whole thing. I didn't really watch much of it. I just read some of it, the articles online. But the fact that politics in the country right now are not getting any better, they're getting worse, and it's just scary. So just seeing how the House divided against itself is becoming what Lincoln essentially said: a house divided cannot stand united. This is particularly true now when you got two parties equally divided, never being united to make decisions in the interest or the best interest of the American people. So yeah, it's scary out there, but hopefully it gets better soon. If you enjoyed the State of the Union address, let me know down in the comments below. Leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Peace.